Good day, guys. Today we're going to be evaluating or going through how to calculate the risk of a single security. So, financial securities are basically instruments in finance that represent either debt or ownership and are in turn used to generate funds. They come in form of your bonds, your shares, your commercial notes. All of those are financial securities that represent either debt or ownership and are in turn primarily used to generate funds. But in as much as we want to invest, we also need to evaluate the risk associated with such investment, and that's where this risk calculation comes into. So basically, the risk of an investment is like an attempt to evaluate how much your actual return, that's the money or the profit or yield that your investment will generate. How much there will be deviations from it, like would it reduce or would it be more than that? Do you understand? So that's basically what this risk in finance aims to calculate. So how do we do that? First thing we need to do whenever we're calculating our risk in finance is to estimate or get our estimated value. And our estimated value is basically just the average amount that we can expect to earn from that investment. Take for instance, you invest 10,000 naira into a security. So if your estimated value or estimated return, that's the return you are estimating to get on average. If the value is 15,000 naira, that's to tell you that over a course or period, you are going to get an average, at least 15,000 naira extra profit. So that's basically the whole concept of estimated value. It's basically the amount that an investor can expect from an investment on average. Like the average, that's like the least value. At least you're going to get this as return. So basically, then what we use to evaluate our what we use to evaluate the risk in security is basically the variance and standard deviation. The variance basically tells us how much the return will deviate from the average, like how much deviations there will be from the average amounts that you can expect to earn from that investment. If the variance is 5%, that means there's going to be at least 5% decrease or 5% increase from that amount that we establish as our estimated value. But the thing is, the variance is always inflated because it squares the value. So we use the standard deviation to get the actual value. So the standard deviation then tells us how much the return from an investment will deviate from its average. That's basically the whole concept. So in order to not bore us with the theories, we can just go into this question. The question says, the security has the following possible annual returns and probabilities. In the first part, the economic state in a boom, the return you can get from an investment or from investing in a security in that economic state is 18%, with a probability of 0.25. Then, when the economy is stable, you can expect a return from any investment of 12%, with a probability of 0.45. Then, when the economy is in a recession, you can expect a return of minus 6%. Oh, that's a loss, with a probability of 30%. So, all of these tell you how likely you are to make this return. So 25%, that means if you invest in about 4 securities or invest 4 times, you have a likelihood to make 18% return on one of that investment. Like same thing for 45% and same thing for 30%. So that's basically it. So the question then tells us, calculate the expected return of the security. Remember what I told you about expected return? This basically tells you the average, like the average amount that the investor can expect from that investment, like an average. Like if they say the average age of some students in a class is 6 years, that means they're just trying to tell you that if you encounter some students from that class, most likely you are going to encounter students that have their age ranging around that 6 years. So that's basically what estimated or expected return is trying to tell us. Then the variance, like I said, we don't use the variance to estimate the risk of security because I'll show you why. Because the variance somehow inflates it because it squares the values. So we are not looking for the squared values, we're looking for the absolute values. But the variance aids us in that process. So it says calculate the variance, and finally it says calculate the standard deviation. This exactly is the risk. It tells us how risky the investment is, like how much returns will deviate from the average, then and explain what it represents. So we'll go into this question now. Okay, so in order to get our estimated value, we use the formula estimated return of security I. Remember, we're dealing with one security as written here. We're dealing with one security, so it's just a security. So if you were 2 securities, the equation will get more complex. We'll deal with that in the next video, but it's one security. So we use this formula. Estimated return of security I, let's just call it security I, is equal to the summation of the probability times the return associated with that security. So, all right, so let's calculate it. So our estimated return as of security I is equal to 18% times the probability 0.25. Now you can convert this into 0.18 if it's your choice, or you can choose to leave it as 18%. So it's your choice. Then plus 12 times 0.45, then plus minus 6 times 0.30. So this is basically how we go about it. This is the summation of the probability, which we will have here, times the return associated with the investment. That's 18% return, 12% return, and minus 6% return, respectively. So our estimated return, security I, is just equal to, now we'll calculate this. Okay, so this is going to be 4.5%. Remember, this is in percentage, we just didn't add it. Then plus, let's calculate this. So we have 12% times 0.45. So we have 5.4 here. 5.4, don't forget it's in percentage. Then, this is going to be minus because this is minus times plus. So it's going to give us minus 6 times 0.3. We have minus 1.8%. Right then, so our estimated return of security I is just going to be, let's calculate this, put it into the calculator. So we have 4.5 plus 5.4 minus 1.8. So we have our estimated return to be 8.1%. That means if an investor should invest in a security in that economy over those 3 states, the investor should expect an average of 8.1 return on their investment. That's to tell you that no matter what, or on average over the course of several investments, the investor should expect an average of 8.1% of their initial investment. So the next question says we should calculate our variance. So to calculate the variance of a single security, we use this formula. Variance, or sigma squared, we denote variance with sigma squared, is equal to the summation of the return associated with the investment, that's in the 3 states of economy, and minus the estimated return of the security I, that's 8.1 as we established here. Then that value all squared, then multiplied by the probability. So remember, it's a summation, so we're going to do that for each. So let's just go into it. So our sigma squared, or variance, is going to be equal to the first return associated with the security is 18%. Like I said, you do not need to convert this. You might choose to convert it, you might choose not to, it's your choice. Then minus 8.1, then all squared, multiplied by this probability at 0.25 for the first one, then plus 12 minus 8.1 all squared, multiplied by the second one, which was 0.45, then plus minus 6 minus 8.1 all squared, multiplied by 0.30. So that's basically it. So sigma squared, and let's plug this into our calculator. Yeah, so our values are, they go thus. So sigma squared is equal to 24% plus 6.84%, that's the value for this, times this, then plus 59.6, that's the value for this, because minus this is going to be minus 14.1, then all squared, minus times minus is going to give us plus, so times 0.30, we have this. So now let's add all these values together. So our variance, or sigma squared, sorry, my sigma looks like a 6, is equal to, and let's add all this together, just give me a second. Our answer equals 90.44%. So this is the variance. But the thing is, this variance is an inflated value because of the square here, because we squared it. When we're looking for the absolute value, that's not the squared value, we're looking for the normal value, the uninflated value. We use the square because the square helps us eliminate things like negatives here, that's as we have here. So now we need to find our standard deviation, that's the third part, and the standard deviation is basically just the square root of the variance. So let's find that. Our standard deviation equals 9.51%. So this exactly is the risk of the security. We use a standard deviation to evaluate the risk of security. This basically tells us that the investment or the return from the investment is going to deviate by plus or minus 9.51%. That's the interpretation. That means if you are expected to get a return of an estimated return of an average of, like we had in this question, our estimated return was 8.1%. That's the average, like how much you are going to get on average, right? This standard deviation basically tells us how much the return is going to deviate from that average. It could be plus 8.51 or it could be minus 8.51. So if it is a plus 8.51, if it's sorry, it will be plus 9.51. My bad, not 8.51. 9. Sorry, it could be plus 9.51. That means you get higher than your average, or it could be minus 9.5. Now you get less. That's eventually a loss. That's basically the interpretation of this value. So we use the standard deviation to evaluate the riskiness of a security. That's basically it. Doesn't really get any more complex than that. That's how you calculate the variance, or rather the risk of a single security. So you can practice or try out some questions, but it still retains the same old process. They come in the same form and still the same, procedure to finding them. So thank you for watching. And in the next video, I'll be going over how to calculate the variance and the standard deviation of a portfolio of two securities. Portfolio is basically a basket of securities, a basket of several securities. So we'll be looking at how to calculate the risk of a portfolio with two securities in it. So thank you very much, and see you next time.